So I just wanted to summarize a little bit, aside from the story I just told you, is what is noodling? So catfish, this is interesting. The breeding of the catfish is really, really interesting. So the blue cat, what happens is the male will go out and make a nest. And he'll spend a lot of time doing it. He'll build it. He'll find, they look for holes, like I said, in rock piles. They'll look for hollowed out logs. That's their favorite, but that's, few and far between when you're out there looking for them, or a lot of them are hogged up early.
And they'll also make their own just in the riverbed if they can weasel their way into some mud.
Yeah.
And then just spin and do whatever.
They'll bring rocks into it, whatever they got to do. Yeah. And then they also like old boat ramps. So the boat ramp, imagine like the cement that goes into the water, they can dig out underneath it a hole. And then what they'll do is when they dig it out, that kind of brings like the sandy bottom, because like there's a lot of gummy goo along those things that you feel with your feet, and then all of a sudden you'll feel like a sandy, rocky bottom, and then you'll feel a hole, and that's very likely a catfish hole. And then you do nothing else but go down there, reach your hand in, and then feel around for a fish. Sometimes they bite you. I'll be honest, maybe it was the early season, but most of them weren't biting. Yeah. Most of them were
hiding.
Yeah, most of them were just trying to get away from you.
Did you pry your fingers in the mouth?
A lot of times.
Okay.
Yeah. So what?
Did you get bit once?
I did.
I don't know
that little one.
Bit.
That little one bit me a few times, but only my fingertips.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was mostly like the littler one that I got. I had to like press him against the wall and then work my hand into his mouth, and he just like did not want it. It's like
oh, so they lock up pretty good.
Yeah. Oh, they can close it hard. It's hard to get it open. It's like prying. So what happens is the male will go in and he will build the nest out, and then he kind of showboats his breastises, and then notice he showboats his body and is like, hey, come on in here, look at this nest, baby.
I don't understand how, like in water like that, how
they can see.
How?
I don't know.
And through they feel vibrations. They can.
That's what sensory
they call it the motion in the ocean in health class, if you know what I mean. Yeah. So they.
Because I mean, visibility is visibility.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, a lot of fish. If you get one fish feeding, like say they feed off the bottom of a lake, if they start feeding, they make a specific kind of
vibration.
How they flutter to stay in one place while they're eating. The other fish will sense that and come in. So they can feel, and they can.
Yeah.
They're like the blind people we were talking about, where their senses are
good for them.
Very heightened.
Yeah. Yeah, they're the winners in this.
Yeah.
So anyhow, the male will build the nest and then showboat to get a female to come in and lay her eggs. So the female will go in. Now he'll spend a couple of weeks getting the nest ready.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it'll take a day if he's in a rush. But the female will come in, and a male can actually fertilize like 7 to 9 different spawns a season. So, but a female will come in, she'll drop anywhere from like, I think it's like 2,000 up to like 100,000 eggs.
Wow.
Okay. So she'll drop those eggs, and then he will fertilize them, and then he will push her out of there. So he'll be defensive to get her out of there. He's the one that stays with the babies, not the male, not the female.
So it's like seahorses, where they raise the young. So
the eggs will hatch, and then the fry will be in there, and they'll stay with the male for a little while, and then eventually they'll work their way out and go out on their own. Now the success rate of living is low. 100,000 eggs. They're not all surviving.
That's what I was going to ask. Like, is there a percentage on?
I don't know it.
20 make the team.
Yeah.
They play the numbers game, assuming that a lot of them are either going to get sick or predators or.
I think it's mostly predators.
I wonder what the loss is on just the odds of being fertilized once the eggs are laid, and then what the odds are making it to being hatched.
I think the odds of being fertilized are very high.
Oh, well, like 100,000 eggs, and then it's in the water. Just that whole.
No, he's dumping. He's saving it up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
No hanky-panky.
They're in a confined little hole, so it's not.
Yeah, there's not a lot of water flow.
Yeah. Although they do get stacked up. Like, we grabbed a few of them, like a pile of them out of the one hole, because I was like, what is that?
Yeah. And you had them all over your back.
That was true. The one that laid eggs all over me.
Yeah.
What kind of defense mechanism is that?
I don't think
get rid of my eggs.
I don't think it is. I think it was just the pressure. She just couldn't hold them in anymore.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think because when I lifted her over my shoulder,
sphincter.
It was like,
oh, weight she's not used to.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and it's just, things poop when they
It
get scared.
happens.
You do it you got so nervous about this podcast, you wet yourself. I mean, for you to ask.
Yeah, I know.
So I just found that interesting about the catfish. And then one of the other things I wanted to cover on it was when we were talking to Nate, we were talking about there seems to be two camps, and we covered this in the actual episode, but the people that think blue cats are better and the people that think flatheads are better. And I've seen several groups go back and forth on that. And like when we first learned, we're like, oh, the one group taught us blue cats are better. So we're like, okay, blue cats are better. And then now getting all the information. So blue cats tend to eat they're big time scavengers. So they'll go scoping around the bottom. They're what people call bottom feeders, but they'll snoop around the bottom eating anything they can find, dead, alive, whatever, crustaceans, frogs. Ryan, you did the conservation corner on this episode, so you're very familiar. They'll eat anything. Whereas the flathead is more like a bass. It's a predator. So it goes after and eats live fish, bluegills, sunfish, minnows, things like that. That's 95% of its diet. Not to say once in a while it won't pick up a scrap of something, but for the most part, a flathead is a fish eater.
Yeah.
So
More predatory.
yeah. So because of that, the meat tends to be a lot whiter, a lot cleaner, and a lot better tasting. So going off Nate's camp and having the opportunity to try both blue and flathead catfish, I'm officially in the flathead catfish.
I think
I
think the blues are cooler. I don't know about
just
taste.
looking.
Yeah, I just think they look cooler.
Well, they're meaner.
Yeah.
They're harder to grab for sure. Just in my experience, they were harder to grab. The blue cats, like the flathead, they bit your hand and they bit your hand. Like, okay, bite down and grab. The blue cats were like jerks. They would bite like a fingertip and then twist as hard as they could and then fury away. Like it's like, and they're like snap, snap, snap. There was this one that I was like determined to get, and Nate's like, I don't even bother with the little blue cats because I like my fingers. And I was like, well, he's littler. It's not a big deal. He goes, okay, help yourself. I went in there and almost lost my finger 8 times at this darn thing. I was so remember the little. If I say little, but he was almost like 25 inches.
Yeah. I mean, compared to the other ones we'd caught, it was
Right.
a little one.
And then we won't spoil it for you, but Jeff had quite the experience with the one he got.
Yeah.
The scale on the one that I just told the story about, the female I had, when we weighed her, she freaked out and the scale went in the water.
Yeah.
It was a digital scale. Jeff ended up catching one later on that arguably it was definitely in the range of the Texas state record
Yeah.
for the largest blue catfish ever caught noodling.
Without a doubt, this thing was
Ginormous.
massive.
Now, I told everyone about Nate's resume. He said this was the largest blue catfish he's ever seen in his life. So,
And
That's pretty great.
our scale broke.
and our scale broke.
Plum, plum.
Now, here's the thing. It was a female, so we had to let it go. She was full of eggs, too, and those are eggs you want in the system.
Yeah.
So we let her go because that was the right thing to do. But when we let her go, we also let go the opportunity of ever knowing whether she was the Texas state record, which kind of has a cool feel to it.
Yeah, now it becomes folklore.
Yeah. 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 Like, oh, she's out there somewhere.
Well, we got the state record, but you had to be there.
Yeah.
That's a fish story.
It's and it's real. Well, the nice thing is it's on camera, so like there's things that like defensive. Here's the
I
thing.
feel like it'd be cooler to have the record though.
The fish that I caught was 50 pounds. Jeff's fish was darn near double.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Darn near double that size.
Yeah.
So
Because we didn't know for sure, Nate said conservatively he'd say 85, but it was probably bigger than that.
Yep.
So, but we'll never know.
So that fish was giant. So you got to check it out in the show. Holding it, I felt there was no way it wasn't 100 pounds.
Yeah. And that was after it kind of calmed down, because while I was fighting it, I'm like, this thing is 200 pounds.
It was so funny. Jeff, I got to give credit where credit's due. They had Jeff put it on his shoulder for a picture, and I was like, I want a picture with that thing before we let it go. So then they're like, all right, put it on your shoulder. And I just tried to kind of do it like I did with mine. And I was like, oh, I physically, I can't do that. So I have to position myself to get under it to lift, because just flipping it up ain't going to happen. I mean, I tried to just kind of like, and I was like, okay, I will get under you. I apologize.
This ain't just a sack of potatoes.
Yeah. There was a picture of 4 of us with it, and all of us were holding a piece of her.
Mm-hmm.
Not me.
Well,
I was being
Busy.
affectionate.
You
Yeah,
were in
you
the, you were in the background.
Ryan was like, Ryan was being Ryan. He ruined half the pictures. But that is our noodling catfish kind of description. I just kind of wanted to give a summary because it's so fascinating. The way the males do things, the way the tendencies of the blue cats being a different fighter than the flatheads, the difference in the meat, the exciting feeling of being underwater for 2 minutes to try and tackle one of these things, and the need for air, the need to fight, the fight or flight situation, the knowing if you come up and let go of it, you might lose it. It's just it's an exciting episode. It's very real, and too from a production standpoint, I think it's one of for it having the capabilities of being very boring because it's like monotonous of like, is that it? Monotonous?
Yeah.
Of just
Well, you're just sitting there for half the time,
Yeah.
waiting to see what happens.
making stupid jokes about each other. Yeah, so I think from a production value, it's very well done too. I'm really excited about the way you guys
agree.
filmed it and the way your creative eye that you and AJ had, Ryan.
Which was tough because we didn't have a lot of options as far as what we could do with cameras.
No, it's like we're in mud water, and we're just standing there looking stupid going underwater where you can't see us for half of it. But
And
you guys
just have
you
to
guys,
be ready. You
Yeah.
just have to.
You guys did a great job.
Yeah.
Looking at the footage, it was absolutely
good.
awesome.